All right, going to be talking about Stalker 2 and what makes for a successful game, whereas what makes for a failure. We're going to be talking about Stalker as well as comparing it against Dragon Age The Veilguard because that's our favorite failure of the week. So also the numbers line up fairly well to make some comparisons there, so that's a good thing to compare this against. So let's just jump right into it and talk about what makes for a successful game, what makes for a failure. So right here from Stalker Official, no wonder it feels a bit crowded in the zone. 1 million copies were sold, and much more Stalkers joined the artifact hunt with Game Pass. This is just the start of our unforgettable adventure. The heart of Chernobyl emanates stronger with each of us. Thank you, Stalkers. So 1 million copies sold. And they're counting the Game Pass copies, and they said that more Game Pass copies were used were sold than other copies. So you can probably make an assumption that the vast majority of Xbox is going to be Game Pass, and Steam doesn't have the equivalent, so Steam is going to be the minority of sales in this situation, which is interesting because some of those sales estimates, we're going to get into that in a minute, are way off. So yeah, interesting thought, something to keep in the back of my mind going forward because that does kind of change my perspective on those things. So speaking of which, we can take a look here. Steam Spy 1.36, VG Insights 1.27. I would put Steam in between Play Tracker and Gamealytic, probably closer to Play Tracker, probably like 350,000 maybe. I don't know. That seems about right, given that it is on console and Game Pass is the biggest contributor. So yeah, let's say 350. That actually is interesting because that means about a third of everyone playing, little less than a third, are actively playing this game. Now it's going to fall off because it's the weekday, so this is not gonna continue on quite as strong as these few days have been. But that said, it's a very strong start for a game that did not take a lot of money in the current era of AAA to make. Compare that against Dragon Age, and we can see here from Smash JT, this is from November 13th, Insider exclusive Dragon Age The Veilguard hits 1 million sales amid grim BioWare atmosphere. So they crossed that 1 million mark significantly further into their release than Stalker. And so that gives you an idea of the amount of traction behind that game versus Stalker 2. There's just a lot more, there's a lot more momentum in Stalker than there ever was in Veilguard. So Stalker 2 is probably going to do significantly more copies. I would put them close to like 5 million, optimistically, let's say, and we'll talk about Dragon Age being closer to like 3 million, I would say. So I mean, you can see like right here with the SteamDB information, the player counts have dropped off a cliff. They're not getting any new follows. It's done. They're probably not going to get 3 million copies, but I'm just being optimistic at this point, especially considering there's no more. They announced no DLCs, no more development on this aside from like bug fixes. They've basically abandoned this game at this point, and that kind of signals everyone else to stop buying it. So nobody new is going to be buying this game anytime soon. It'll still have some steam behind it to pick up to a few more sales, but honestly, I would be impressed if it passed 2 million, but optimistically, let's call it 3. And 3, and assuming they made their full amount from every sale they made, and there was no Game Pass sales or anything like that, which obviously there were, I would imagine it's probably the similar ratio, whereas the vast majority of Dragon Age was also Game Pass. But let's just take that out of the equation altogether with Dragon Age and make them the best possible scenario. You're looking at, $50, $60 a copy, because we're not taking anything for Steam or anybody. So $60 a copy, times that 5 million or 3 million. So, 180 million. And it cost 150 to make this thing. And that's the best estimate we've got is 150, probably higher, but let's say 150, and it took 150 to market it. So 180 million is falling short of that $300 million that it cost them to make and market this game. Whereas Stalker, If you're talking 5 million copies over the next month, plus the DLC, but let's not even count the DLC. Let's just say 5 million copies sold times, let's say that it is 60, let's say probably like $30 average price between, Game Pass being much lower. They're not going to get as big of a cut, and then Steam taking their cut and all that. Let's just say $30. They made $30 a copy times that 5 million. So almost the worst case scenario for these guys is putting them at 150 million. It cost them 30 to 60 to make it. Let's say it cost them 60, and let's say another 60 to market it. So 120 million to market it. They made $30 million in profit. So obviously a profitable game. Not to mention the fact that they do have DLC coming up. They do have things going forward. And they're not abandoning this game. I mean, this is basically the only thing they do. Their previous game was Stalker 1, and that was many years ago. So they're going to keep going with this game for a while. They're going to keep, adding to it and continuing on with it. Whereas Dragon Age is completely abandoned at this point. So yeah, they're gonna make their money and then some. They're gonna continue on with this, and it's gonna be a success. I mean, there's no question about it in my mind. But you can see where 1 million copies means a whole different thing between two games. If you keep your budgets reasonable, if you keep things on track, if you build the game that is, going to be popular enough, going to be interesting enough to capture the sales to more than cover your budget, 1 million copies is great. Now, if you spend 150 million on your budget, if you, drag this out and bring in all these consultants and spend all this money and make a game that is not what people are looking for, clearly with Dragon Age The Veilguard, it's not what people were looking for. You're gonna fall short. You're not gonna make your money back, let alone make a profit. So 1 million sales can be good. 1 million sales can be bad. So now that's kind of my point is, it makes a difference what kind of game you make. And Stalker, these guys definitely did really well with Stalker 2. People are really enjoying the game. It is very much in the same vein as the original. There are some complaints. There are some bugs. There are some issues. But by and large, this is the game people were looking for from these guys. Dragon Age was not the game people were looking for. It seems like they were probably looking for something more in the realm of Inquisition, more in the realm of a continuance of the old Dragon Age, or even further bringing it back to the original from Inquisition, because there were some complaints about Inquisition, but nothing like this. I mean, at this point, Inquisition is looking pretty darn good, whereas before Veilguard came out, Inquisition was the worst one by a lot of people's opinions. But now, oh yeah, Inquisition, that was a good game now. So, I guess if you want to make your old games look good, do something like Dragon Age The Veilguard. If you want to make people appreciate your old games and continue on and get that sentimentality vote, then do what Stalker 2 did. So yeah, that's what I got for you guys. Kind of a short video, but it's something I wanted to kind of discuss, put out there as far as, budgets and making that game that's going to capture people's attention. That's going to be the thing they're expecting. And that being the difference between a success and a failure. So if you like these kind of videos, subscribe to the channel, and I will talk to you guys later.